Yo, what is up guys, Midway here. Today we're going to be talking about the Encrypted Affix, the new affix that we're going to be getting for Season 3, and we're going to be learning how to play around it and how it works and what it does. So basically this affix adds a bunch of relics attached to different packs throughout the dungeon and also to every single one of the bosses on every dungeon, and these relics give some beneficial effects to the enemies. One of them gives 15% damage reduction, the other one gives 15% increased haste, and the last one does do a little bit of ticking damage. So you want to be killing these relics as soon as possible, and once you kill the relics, based on the one you kill first, you will spawn an Automa. This Automa is another mob that has a bunch of abilities on its own, and it's actually not too hard to deal with. They don't really do much damage, provided that you dodge whatever you have to dodge and interrupt what you have to interrupt, and themselves they have not too much HP, but when they die they give you a buff, and we're going to be talking about these buffs as we are going from each one of the Automa to the next one. So here we're looking at the Buy Automa. This one is basically some sort of sniper, and he is jumping around, he teleports and he shoots people at random, but he also does a frontal, and this frontal is just a line that you can dodge, and if you dodge it you basically take not too much damage, because the shots, they do some amount of damage, but they're not that dangerous by themselves, especially in low key levels like this one. Keep in mind that the keys are not scaling. The scaling of the keys hasn't been changed from Season 2 to Season 3. The scaling remains the same. So a 17 here now is the same as a 17 in Season 2. But when you kill this mob, what you get is 25% increased cooldown reduction. So that's pretty good once your cooldowns have already dropped. So you would be looking at getting that buff once you've already gotten the haste one before. So you would like to get with the haste one as you are getting into the pack, and then get the CDR one from the boss usually. And then the next one we're looking at here is the Dismantler. This one just died insanely quickly, so we couldn't really see what it does, but he basically just does some sort of tank ability, and then he does an AoE in the ground, which you just gotta move out of it. And when you kill this one, you get 150% increased movement speed, and it also puts you in stealth for 10 seconds. Now the buffs themselves, they all last for 45 seconds, but the stealth buff itself only lasts for 10 seconds, because otherwise that would be a bit too long and a bit too OP. You could just skip everything at will. That adds a little bit more pressure with only 10 seconds on the line. But the buff itself is probably just useful to skip mobs if you don't want to have a rogue, or if you just want to play around it in some other way. The last one, the last one of the relics, or the Automa that comes from the relics, is the Woe Drifter. So if you kill the Woe relic last, you will get the Woe Drifter spawning, and what this one does is it just cast this big AoE burst, and provided that you interrupt the burst, nothing else is going on. He doesn't do any ticking damage whatsoever, which is weird. I would expect this mob to also do some sort of ticking damage. All the other two mobs have two abilities, this one only has one single ability. It seems very similar to basically Arcalath, besides just not having the ticking damage. Otherwise it would basically just be Arcalath again. I guess that's why they didn't add any sort of ticking damage to it, but this one does give you the 20% increased haste. So usually you would like to get this one, this buff, getting into the boss. So basically kill a pack before the boss, get this relic, and then you pull into the boss, and then the boss itself should have some relics. So what you do is, or what you would ideally do, is get the haste, get into the boss, drop all CDs, and then once your buff drops, you kill the relics from the boss, you get the Automa from the boss, and then you basically get the CDR, so you can get your CDs back for the same boss. Now, as you can see here, you pull the boss, the relics spawn, but there's a little bug right now going on, and it affects paladins in particular, and that is if you kill the relics and then you kill the mob from the relics themselves. If you bubble as the mob dies, you will not get the beneficial buff, because the game treats it as a debuff, and basically the bubble is preventing you from getting such debuff. So right here I bubbled, the mob dies, and he's doing his little channel, so he dies and he does a channel, and then after the channel that's when you get the buff. I didn't get no buff whatsoever there because I had bubble on me, so that is a little bit annoying as it is right now, but the mechanic itself is pretty cool. The relics don't do that much because they have so little HP, especially in these low-key levels. They have like 100k. You just AoE and down, and sometimes you just kill them without really noticing, and sometimes you kill the wrong one because they just die so quickly. I'm actually not sure if you can AoE them. That might be a thing that's pretty annoying. I'm not sure really. But then the mob itself also just dies insanely quickly. Usually if you pull them together with packs, the AoE cap will take its toll, and then the mob won't really die as much as quicker. But for these bosses where it's only the relic and then the boss, you just nuke him so quickly that it's barely not noticeable. Of course, we're doing a 15. We're expected to do way higher keys in this season. Ever since, of course, since they are not changing the scaling, so we should be seeing like 30 something easily this season. But yeah, for now, these low keys, the mobs were just dying so quickly that barely didn't do anything. The only times we kind of had any problems with them were when we didn't interrupt the casts from the burst that the WoW Hpala does. But other than that, the buffs themselves are nice. The haste one, of course, is so straightforward. You just pick up the haste, you have more haste. You might want to stagger haste from the relic and haste from lust, depending on the haste cap. That's just going to depend on how you play around it. I'm not too sure what's going to be the best thing to do about it, because just stacking lust and the 20% haste on top from the relic might just be overkill, and you might just get to the haste cap in some classes. So usually we were actually staggering it. Not sure if it's the best play, but whatever. Playing around with the CDR, playing around with increased haste, trying to get as many relics all the way throughout the dungeon, because the thing is, we don't know if these relics are actually going to be switching from pack to pack on a weekly basis, just like it happened with the Season 2 affix. So if that is the case, then the routing will also be changing from week to week, just like it did before. You want to pull this Tormentor, and this week you want to pull this before because the Tormentor is over there. That might be the case also for Season 3. You might want to change your routing based on where the relics are. If that is not the case, then usually what you will do is basically just end up finding a path that basically min-maxes the usage of the relic, and you get as many relic uses as possible. And you basically try to skip pulling stuff without a relic, because what you want to do is get that haste and do more damage, right? But everything just flows together pretty nicely. The problem is, the test that we were doing, we didn't really have any planned routes. We were just pulling whatever it was in front of us. As you can see, on these Tassaves runs that we did, we were dying like 60 times per run because we were just trying stuff out. We were finding out the trash mechanics basically in the middle of a run, so we were just dying a lot basically. So in this scenario, it's not a fair test to basically give a proper opinion on how this is gonna play out when you're actually pushing keys. But the effects themselves are pretty okay. It is nothing too crazy. It doesn't change how you play that much besides choosing what you pull. And at the moment, without any repercussion of like planning a proper route and trying to actually time a key, it doesn't really come into play. That will have to be something that we are just gonna find out in live after a bunch of stuff, a bunch of testing of actually pushing keys. But yeah, I do like the affix. I think it's gonna be interesting. On its own, the mobs are not too exciting. On its own, the buffs are not too exciting. What's exciting is the putting it all together, adding the mob mechanics on top of the bosses, seeing how that's gonna shape things up, how difficult things are gonna be, or if it's just gonna be basically AoE everything down as it seems that's gonna be. In my opinion, I think the mobs are gonna get a little bit of a buff because they don't really do that much by themselves. If that's the case, I wouldn't be too mad because they are a little bit underwhelming, especially if you compare them to the Tormentors. The Tormentors were so mean, you had to plan around them so much. These mobs, they don't do nothing. They are pretty much just kill them ASAP, interrupt something, move out of the frontal or the AoE, and that is it. So they are pretty forgettable. You just think about them as if you were thinking about the buffs. And the thing that really is bothering me is how little HP the relics have. You don't really get to feel the relics effects. The buffs that they give to the enemies, they are so not noticeable because they just die so quickly. Even in a high key level, I mean, I could see the relics having like 200-300k HP, which will be quite meaningful, to be honest. But even then, you would just kill the one that you need. That's basically the AoE one. You're gonna be killing like 5 times out of 7 or whatever. You're just gonna be killing the one that actually does something. That's the ticking AoE damage so much more often than the other ones. Unless then you might also kill the one that's then you would kill the one that's reducing the damage taken from the enemy, so you could kill the packs as quickly as possible. But basically that's it for the relics and the affix, guys. I hope you find it useful. Hope it was pretty okay as an explanation. And yep, I'll see you guys on the next video. I'm gonna be explaining, talking a little bit about the new Tassaves Mystic Plus and how that is playing out. So I'll see you guys there. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please let me know, and also drop a comment down below and let me know what you think about the affix, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye bye.